manager bullies me for several months until I finally quit. I made sure to get him fired.
Obligatory English is not my native language. Apologies for my mistakes and grammar. This happened around 2016. I'd, at the time 25/26M, been without a job for a while, looking for a better paying job than I had before, and I found one at a camera security company that was looking to hire someone for the service desk. I went for an interview and got a call back later that day. If I wanted the job, it was mine. Now, my new manager was an ex-military. Specifically ex-Army, not American, just pointing that out. He really didn't like having people disagree with or going against him. A thing I was very unaware of when I took the job. For 2/3 months everything was going well. The manager was cordial and seemed to really enjoy having me there. I worked my butt off every day, as the software we were working with was unknown to me, so I studied a lot and even went overseas to another country to follow a course and succeeded on my exams. However, after that period, my grandpa, who was like a second father to me, suddenly was hospitalized after a brain bleed. Aneurysm? He was found in the shower. He had collapsed after he pressed his panic button. Assisted living? Not sure how it's called in English, apologies. This all happened on a Wednesday. The family came together in the hospital several times to show support and see Grandpa. However, on Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. I was called up by my father, my grandpa's son, while I was at work, and he explained to me that Grandpa unfortunately passed away. I was in tears on the phone and in utter shock. It took me a while to calm down. I went to my manager and explained what just happened and that I'm going home to be with my family. However, that day there was an event. The company was doing a charity event, and this charity was going to be public news. They already announced the amount of people participating, and it would look bad if they were a person down. It was basically just for good PR. So he refused to let me go. I told him that by law he cannot deny me, as my contract states I can take a day for a death in the family, and that I was leaving now. This was the turning point. He went from a nice manager to a manager from hell.
Suddenly everything I did was wrong. I was told he couldn't believe I was in this line of work for 6 years and be this bad at my job. He cussed me out and ridiculed me in front of my colleagues and even clients. This all continued for several months and severely began to impact my mental health. I had a talk with my parents and my fiancé, at the time still my girlfriend. I'd asked her to marry me in December 2016, and they basically told me that this was not okay, that I didn't have to take this, and that I should give them my 2 weeks notice. I agreed. The following day I went to HR and explained why I was leaving the company and that I couldn't stand the idea of working even a single day more with that excuse of a human being. HR showed interest in my well-being and, even more importantly, in what I was claiming about my manager. They had received more complaints about him, but nobody had proof of his wrongdoings. So, they asked me if I had proof. I told them I'd be looking for a new job, but I'd gladly fit in the time to collect all I could. For the next 2 weeks I collected everything: memos, emails, voice recordings. When on the phone, the calls are automatically recorded, and the dumbass was stupid enough to cuss me out while I was on the phone. Lucky me. Also lucky was that my colleagues at the desk had my back this entire time. They'd been trying to cheer me up, said I was doing fine work, and that they also didn't understand this man's behavior. So, when I came by and asked if they'd mind signing a document that everything I stated in the paperwork was the true, they gladly did. I had one last talk with HR and him at the same time the last day I was there. Before he even walked in, I told the HR person who was mediating, he's going to walk in, say what he wants to say, and I'll be quiet and listen. When he's done, I'll explain my side, and he's going to interrupt me, tell you I'm lying, and talk about completely non-related subject matter to drag the conversation another direction. She looked surprised at my comment, but had no time to respond, as Mr. Army Man walked in and began his spiel. Exactly as I stated, he'd blurt his side out, and once I tried to talk he'd consistently interrupt me and try to pick fights. Eventually I got up, told HR, I told you so. Here's the documents you've been asking for.
I placed a filled folder with several dozens of emails, plenty of memos and a USB containing 3 phone conversations and even video footage of him yelling at me. In both voice and video recordings you could easily hear him cuss me out. I gave the manager a big bright smile, who was smirking vigorously, and said to him, "I don't think you'll be smirking like that for long. Enjoy your little victory." His smirk disappeared into a confused scowl, but I slammed the door on him before he could respond and left the building feeling like a huge, and I mean humongous-sized, planet-sized amount of stress fell off my shoulders. Within a month, I was back to my old self.
2 months later I was working at a new job, and out of curiosity I checked my ex-manager's LinkedIn. Unemployed, I called one of my old colleagues to ask what exactly went down. My proof opened Pandora's box. He was being disrespectful to the female staff, insulted the older staff, and on multiple occasions was less than cordial with our external hires. None of these complaints were acted upon, because it was his word against theirs and there was no proof. However, me providing overwhelming proof of his gross behavior towards me made all other complaints now to be taken as fact. He was promptly fired less than a month after I left, and they refused to provide him with any form of reference. In a field like his, references mean a lot. So not getting one from a company you worked at for nearly a year is a huge red flag. It's now 2020. 4 years passed, and according to LinkedIn he's still not working in his field. I'll gladly admit that I felt rather wickedly satisfied, and still do whenever I happen to think about it. TL. Dr. Manager began to bully me because I went to my family after the death of my grandpa instead of staying at work, and basically forced me to quit for my own mental health. I delivered an overwhelming amount of proof of his misconduct that got him fired, which made it very difficult for him to find another job in his field. Edit. My first awards ever. Thank you kind strangers for the awards and all the responses. Special thanks for the gold. Much love. Less than 3. So satisfying to see justice served. I'm sorry you had to deal with an abusive bully of a boss. And I'm sorry for the loss of your grandfather. Hope you're doing well today. Your English is excellent, by the way, so no need to apologize. Always reminded of the quote that people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses. Even if it wasn't against the law and in your contract that you could take off work for the death of a family member, it is a pretty terrible move to not allow someone time off to grieve and prepare for a funeral. It's general respect. Just based off of that, without even considering the verbal abuse you and your colleagues faced from this manager. He got what he deserved. It's good when higher-ups are on, or just not ignore, victim side. So he had a pile of complaints against him, but they still did nothing? And even after you provided proof, it took a month to get rid of him? Thank all that you got out of there and away from that company. Sounds like another shithead that's on a power trip, thinking he's still in the military and thinking it's okay to treat regular, everyday people like absolute shit because that's what he's used to. It's bullshit. But it definitely pays off to document any sort of harassment and abuse in the workplace like that. CYA equals cover your ass. This gave me a justice boner and I'm a lady.
I'm satisfied op.
This is chef's kiss, so satisfying. Good on you for sticking it out and simultaneously getting justice for the others. That got the good revenge feelings flowing. Excellent revenge. Also excellent English, you're doing great. Thank you for the lesson. Evidence is definitely not something you consider right away until you deal with our smart. I like the way you think and able to provide HR information. I had been discriminated a lot due of my deafness, and think I'm like retarded. Mind you, I spoke orally well and I am hard of hear. I wear hearing aids. I had complained and wound up getting fired. I learned from now on. Shut my mouth and do my work. I needed to work. It's gonna be their words against mine. I work at an office job and I know I will not moved up the ladder unless I changed job. But thing is, I don't want to deal with drama anymore. Keep going whatever you do. You are a good person. Thank you for putting in the effort to prove his misbehavior. That is a difficult task, and many people go on to torture others. The man needs psychological therapy, but no one should have to suffer for his problems. Also, as is common, your written English is indiscernible from a native speaker. There is no need to worry. Gee, I wonder if this Hull's behavior is why his military status is ex-army. Dishonorable discharge for abuse of rank privilege maybe? Either way, he got what was coming. English is not my first language, then proceeds to write a story that rivals Harry Potter. And here's the opposite of your horrible ordeal. Told my boss I was leaving early because I had to deal with my cat. She was being treated for cancer but had stopped eating. That was the turning point, so I had to say goodbye and do the right thing instead of watching her starve to death. Next day I come to work. Manager is surprised. I thought you were taking time off. Quote, let that sink in. My manager had no issue with me taking bereavement leave for my cat. You should send him a sickeningly friendly message asking him how he's doing. Man, I'm experiencing this exact same thing right now, but without the revenge part. My current manager, which I used to have a great working relationship, is treating me the same way OP's manager did, just because I refused to listen to him when he told me to come to work daily, instead of alternate days as what our top management told us to do. Due to the current pandemic situation, it's really depressing and demoralizing when you get yelled at and scolded for every little thing he thinks is wrong. Fuck. I had a manager like this when I was working front desk at a hotel. I loved that job, did everything I could, was a model employee. When a giant management shift happened, I was there working my butt off. Extra hours, helping implement new policies or organizing things, etc. The manager in question was the store manager, so one level above my manager. And one day I was having a bad anxiety day and asked to go home early. He said yes, but the next week he was so cold and rude to me. Finally I sent him, my manager, and the owner an email addressing his behavior after one day off of months of hard work. He had the gall to deny that I had really done anything and implied I was doing the bare minimum. Neither my manager nor the owner stood up for me and I quit that day. Terrible management really is the worst. First off, your English is better than some native speakers. Second off, that's some great revenge. Absolutely fantastic.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.